what did I just say? I said, hey, my amazingly awesome ASL stars, how are you? I had a great day today. I really appreciate our discussions. I appreciate you guys following directions so well, following all the class rules that we have. You're a great bunch of students, and I really look forward to the rest of the year. We're going to learn a lot, and we're going to have a lot of fun together. So let's recap what we learned today. You learned that you are the amazingly awesome ASL stars, and I look forward to next week when you knock on the door and I say, who are you guys? And what are you going to say? And then I'll say, come on in, welcome. We went over a couple of signs. Before we do the signs, though, I want to share with you some of the topics that we went over to kind of refresh your memory what we spoke about today. So during our culture and community talk, we spoke about, do deaf people like music? And the answers, you guys had great answers. You know, it runs the gamut. Some deaf people love music, some don't, just like people who can hear. And how do deaf people experience music? Well, if they have some hearing, they can hear some of it. If they can't, they're profoundly deaf. Remember, we signed profoundly, deeply, strongly deaf. Then they can experience through vibration. Vibration in the floor, like a wood floor, touching the speaker, holding a balloon. Those are some of the things that we spoke about. We also spoke about some of the cultural aspects for deaf people. How do deaf people get each other's attention? We could flick the lights. That's what we did, and this is a sign for flicking the lights on and off. Right? Tapping someone lightly on the shoulder. We don't wave in somebody's face. We don't tap them. We don't throw things at them to get their attention. It's really rude. But it's just a light tapping or a light wave in the peripheral vision of that person so they can see that you're trying to get their attention. Can deaf people drive? What do you think? Yeah, deaf people drive, and a lot of them are so much better at driving than the people who can hear. And why is that again? Because they are visual, so visual, and their eyesight can catch what's going on probably quicker than we can hear. So absolutely deaf people can drive. We did discuss a little bit about the TTY, the very first communication device for the deaf and hard of hearing. And remember, I told you it was like a big clunky thing with a typewriter. It looked like a typewriter turned into a smaller one where you put the phone on and you can type, and there's paper for you to have the record of the conversation. We also spoke about how do deaf people hear the doorbell when it rings, right? And we talked about the different light devices. It's time for different. And so they ring the bell and the lights can go on overhead, or sometimes there's a little lamp on a table and that might be connected to the telephone so they know that the phone is ringing. We also went over the whole spectrum of deafness. You know, there's people who are profoundly deaf, people who have moderate hearing, hearing loss, and then we have people who are hard of hearing. Or we have people who can hear and there's just a slight bit of hearing loss. Something we didn't go over that I want to talk to you about is not everyone uses American Sign Language too. So I want you to think about that for next week. We're going to talk about the different signing systems that are out there, okay? What else did we discuss today? Today we discussed a little bit about name signs, that deaf people give you your name signs. For our class's sake, I will be giving you guys name signs just to use in our class. And, you know, if you pursue the language further, and if you pursue studying American Sign Language further, and deaf people meet you, I'm sure that they'll give you your own sign name. But for our class time, as I get to know you, I'll be able to give you out names for you. And that's always exciting. So let me make sure we covered everything. Do deaf people drive? We did that. We spoke a little bit about the structure of ASL. When you're structuring the language in sentences, it's more of a topic, common type of structure where it's the subject. You're always talking about the subject first, and then what's happening with that subject, or what's happening in terms of the concepts that you want to get point across. Like there's a house, sign for house, and now I'm going to tell you that the house is blue. House is blue, not blue house. Though some people do sign it that way, but as I'm teaching American Sign Language, I want to make sure I give you that proper structure and all the variations of that. So that was our discussion. We had a lot of good questions. We had a lot of good discussion. I really appreciate it. And then we got into How do we sign? Sign language, and in class I told you sign language has 3 parameters. There's actually 4. So there's one that I missed today. So the first part of how we create a sign is you have to have hand shapes, right? So we either have the hand shapes of the alphabet. You can use A's and B's and bent B's and open 8s and all those other, the jargon that I told you today that you might not be familiar with. So there's hand shape. Then there's orientation. Is it facing out, in, side, back? Where is it facing? What's the orientation? Then we have the location. Where are we putting the sign? Is it near my ear, like we sign for radio, bent 5s for radio? Or is it on my chest for cop? Or is it out in front of me, as in class? Now the fourth one that I forgot to share with you guys is movement. How does the sign move? Is it just in place like this? Does it come around like this as you would do for, let's say, globe, or class? Does it go together for a ball? So that's what's very important for you to know, that what's important is hand shape, orientation, location, as well as movement, okay? And then we went over some signs. We learned the sign for socks, because we know this is star, right, going up and down, and socks is going this way. We know this is a sign for cop, it's a C hand shape. Radio, we learned class, and then we learned our ABCs. And I want to briefly go over the ABCs with you so you can see it, okay? So try to sign it with me. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Good. Were you able to keep up with me? Okay, let's see if you can do it again. Ready? Okay. How'd you do? Good? Okay, great. Next class, here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about, is it difficult for deaf people to read? Can they read? And is it hard for them to read? For some or most. And I also want you to practice finger spelling because we are going to have a 5-word finger spelling quiz. I'm going to spell 3-letter words, 5 of them, and let's see if you guys can catch it, okay? And when we do that, we'll also be learning the signs at the same time. Last part of what we did, we learned the beginning of our song. I'm so excited because I love worship and I love worshiping in ASL. And so here we go with the song again. The splendor, that's wonderful. The splendor of a king. And the K goes by the hip. Splendor of a king. And now we have God. You can use the same hand if you want to. Comes, and he's clothed, wrapped in majesty. Today, I showed it to you using the opposite hand, which you can do as well. And I like it better that way, so it looks like this. The splendor of a king. And now God comes. Clothed, or just wrapping it, clothed in majesty. Good. Next part. You guys got this part already. All, you're taking your open hand and you're going around. All the earth. You have that C hand shape down. This is called an open 8. You're touching it and you're going back and forth. The earth. Rejoice. Rejoice. You're going to clap your hands and you're going to do 2. These are called taper O's. You're going to go around. Okay? So it's the splendor of a king. clothed in majesty, and all the earth rejoice, and all the earth rejoice. So I want you guys to practice that. I'm trying to make the recap videos a little bit short for you. And and the last thing I want to share with you is numbers 1 through 5 when you're counting. So when you're counting 1 through 5, it looks a little bit different than you might think. It looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you can see I'm using my left hand. Now I'll do my right hand for you. 1, 2, 3. The thumb comes out. 4 and 5. I want you to practice that this week, okay? When you're counting 1 through 5, and it's in quantity, like there's 1 doll, 2 dolls, 3 dolls, the orientation, the palm, is going to face inward, okay? So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Alrighty? And I think I have some students that would like to learn all the way up to 10, so I'm going to continue for you. Now, turn that palm around. 6 is on the pinky. 7 is the ring finger. 8 is that middle finger. And 9 looks like the F. Okay, so it's 6, 7, 8, 9. When I was learning, this was hard for me to remember, but I remembered it because the pinky is the smallest finger that I have, so that's the smallest of that number in sequence. 6, 7, 8, 9, and then you shake an A for 10. Okay, so do it all over again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you guys have a great week. I want you to practice your ABCs. I want you to think about and maybe do some research on deaf people and reading so we can talk about that more. Give me any questions that you have when we get to class next week, and we'll talk again for discussion time. We'll have new vocabulary, and I will give you a five-word finger spelling test. Okay? Keep practicing your names, and remember, no bouncing. So let's do it nice and smooth. So for Connor, it's Connor. For Sarah, Sarah. Okay? Gavin. You see how my hand is nice and straight. Okay, so practice that, and I will see you next week. Bye, guys.